So for this type of 4-point star, I've used a heavier weight card, and I've cut 4 3.5-inch pieces. I folded it in half both ways and then scored it using my bone folder to get a sharp edge. Then I've put wrong sides together to create a triangle and scored it with a bone folder, and then the opposite side and scored it with a bone folder. I've obviously already done this one. You end up with hills and valleys again. What I want you now to do with this piece is push in on the valleys and you'll end up with a triangle. We're going to turn the triangle upside down and we're going to take the top pieces into this centre line. And this is where you'll find it's actually quite hard to fold multiple pieces of card. Do that twice. Try and get them as far as you can to meet in the centre to get a nice point at the top. This is actually quite thick at the bottom here, and you really will need to press hard with your bone folder to secure that in place. Do that 4 times and you end up with 4 pieces like I've got here. Now, in order to glue this onto my card, I'm going to want to make sure that I get them in the right place, and I also want to put a brad in place as well, and I don't want the brad to go right the way through this cardstock. So to get round that problem, I'm going to use a second piece of cardstock and I'm going to glue these pieces on here. I've got a little bit of wiggle room with my glue. If any of the base card shows through, it's actually the same design, isn't it? I'm just going to put glue here, and I'm using my Colwall glue for this, the photo glue, because you can see it's got movement. It will give me time to move the pieces around. Now, there are pros and cons to that, because it does mean that it'll slip out of place. But I find that this is the best for doing this. And just repeat that 4 times. This piece of cardstock I've got underneath is one of the 3.5-inch. I think if I was doing it again off camera, I'd just cut it down to about 3 inches. It's the central bit that you need for securing it in place, but it works quite well. One, two, three, 4. And as they move around, you can just make sure that you get them meeting each other at the corners. If you've got any card showing through, don't forget that this is a coordinating card pack. So the pattern that will show through, can you see that peeking through there? The pattern that will show through is the pattern that I've chose to place them onto. That's why I've chosen from the same pack. And I'm going to poke a hole through then with my pokey tool. This is cardstock, and I won't get the brad through without doing that. Be careful if you're doing this with children. And I opted to put, which one with this? This pink. I did try to get the pearls through, and because there's so much buoyancy in the cardstock, they just kept bringing back up again. And that didn't work. How's that? So I'm going to secure that. And the reason that I put this in place first is that when this goes on the cardstock, by the time I glue this on, that metal edge from the brad is very secure. It won't go through the card. So as the recipient opens the card, they won't see any metal on the inside of the card. And I find that's very secure. I'm going to leave that to fully set before I glue that in place and make sure I'm happy with it before I proceed. I'm going to do the last one now. When I put it down, I'm going to make sure that I get the squares looking correct for the corners to match up. I'm going to make sure I've got a little bit of space at the top and the sides, and that it's equidistant, but I am going to leave space at the bottom to put a sentiment in. and I might do a simple with love on these. For this one then, I've changed the brads. I felt that the pink was too sickly sweet and didn't show up enough, whereas the maroon actually ties in with the flowers here. So I'm going to put it on fairly straight for the corners. I need to make sure that I've got a little bit of room at the top for the star to show, and it's equidistant at the sides, and I leave room and space at the bottom here for me to put an appropriate sentiment in. And I'm going to press that down hard. That was just with the photo glue. Just give a little bit of wiggle room. And as you see, as I'm doing it this way, the brad, the metal part of the brad is actually held then in place quite securely, and it's quite safe for the recipient. Right, so I think I've done 6 cards. I'm going to have something to eat, find some sentiments, and I'll come back to you when I've completed that. I'm going to stamp a sentiment on the inside. I'm going to write on the back of the card, and I'm going to come back and show you what they look like when I've finished. So that for now is the 2 different types of stars. 2 different types of stars and 2 different methodologies. Right, so that was nice. I was able to have a sit down in my comfortable chair while I was putting the sentiments on. The cards are finished now. I've completed 6 cards, and I'll show you what they're like when I've placed them in a cello bag. The sentiments I've tried to get to reflect the colour that I've chosen for the brad. The cellophane will help keep them flat and will protect them until I'm ready to use them. But actually, these are going to friends. Each card then has been teamed up with its matching envelope. There is a certain amount of dimension. I hope that you can see on that how much dimension there is. I've put a simple sentiment, die cut sentiment on the front with love. And inside I've stamped just for you. On the back, I write handmade for you, and then I team it up with the appropriate envelope, and they're ready to go. Now, I'm going to give these next week. I'm meeting up with one of my oldest friends. She was one of my bridesmaids many, many years ago, and I'm going to give these cards for her to give to her daughter on my behalf. And in that, I'm going to invite them to come and watch what I do on my new YouTube channel. The funny thing is, what was making me giggle was one of them did art at university, so she's got an arts degree. She will laugh at my artwork, but I'm hoping she'll appreciate that I'm trying anyway. The main thing is, when I send my cards out, people know that they're made with love by me, especially for them. And I hope that in future they can say to their children, do you remember the lady that made you that advent calendar that we bring out every year? This is who it is. And they can hear my voice, and in the future they'll be able to put my voice to the photograph that they have of me, and it'll bring things a little bit more to life. I hope that you have a go at making some cards like these. I sent these out recently to my friends for their birthdays, and they really liked them. So for now, this is Maggie saying bye for now. See you soon.